Hello and welcome to Safe Space. End of transmission. Yes, my name is Vince Hunt, Warden for this Mothership campaign, and as always I'm joined by the wonderful, talented and brilliant players Jim Bampfield, Lizzie Boyle, Gavin Mitchell and PJ Montgomery. Say hello everyone.
Hello everyone.
Hello everyone.
Oh, so predictable.
14 sessions of that. And we ain't done yet. Anyway, if you...
Please don't kill us.
Well, this isn't the session where you don't have to worry about anything. This session.
That's what you always say.
I know. But if you lovely people watching this or listening to this, if you haven't watched or heard any of the first season of Safe Space, stop what you're doing now. Stop it. Don't stop watching this and go catch up.
This.
Don't. You've already confused me, PJ. If you haven't watched Safe Space Season 1, go and catch up because we're going to be spoiling all kinds of things tonight in this little wrap-up show. We thought we'd do... now that the first season is in the can, isn't that what they say?
In the books?
In the books. In the record. Yeah.
I don't know.
It's done.
In the can, I would think it's probably a kind of old Hollywood thing where film went into cans. But in the can... in America probably means something slightly different.
Still out.
Toilet.
There you go.
Yeah. Now that we've flushed season 1.
Hey!
No, we
wiped it away.
Yep. We did a complete season. We didn't to begin with. We didn't even know it was going to go 14 episodes. You'll find out lots of things in this session because it was just it's almost like a post-campaign wrap-up in some kind of way, but the campaign isn't quite done yet. Anyone who plays tabletop games knows that sometimes discussing the game can be just as much fun as the game itself sometimes. I know I've talked to all of these players about different games and everyone just lights up when they talk about their own experiences when it comes to tabletop role-playing games, and that's what you're going to hear tonight. Those shared experiences are just awesome. So we're probably just going to get carried away and start talking. I'm going to try very, very hard not to give away any secrets or behind the screen nonsense. I will reveal some details and let people know that I had no plans for some things. But we'll find all that out later as we go on. And it is a chance for us to look back at what's happened so far. And the players can ask each other questions as well. Because none of this was scripted, obviously. If you watch the show, you know it wasn't. And the players have their own motivations and their own character arcs and things going on in the background. I'm certainly messaging in the individual players saying, do you want to do this? Go this way, that way. But their compatriots don't know. So there'll be some interplayer questions, no doubt, as well. Even if it's just, why the fuck did you do that? So we'll probably have a bit of that. And of course they can ask me questions and see if they can get any kind of answer. There are many cards that I and these players will keep close to our chest. Like I say, there may be more of this to come, but you'll find out later on. But what a season it was. Look at them all. They're also relaxed now. Also chill after the experience of this game. PJ looks like... You're right, PJ. I feel like I've got to ask if you're doing okay, man.
You should have like heart rate monitors and blood pressure monitors on us just for the wrap-up session, because this is like just as tense now. It's like, what's he going to do? What's he going to do?
This is the problem. But it's because I've got Vince on a little screen on my computer down there that I think he's going to try and kill me in a few minutes.
You've been conditioned for this now.
I'll take that as a sign that I've obviously been doing the game in some way successfully. But the game itself, we had a crew of odd blue-collar workers on the edge of space. They took an overtime contract and ended up in a horrific situation and running for their lives. They fought monsters, saved some people, and got stressed. Oh boy, did they get stressed. And before we get into the weeds of the story itself, I'm just going to kick us off from here and say to the players, and we ask my players now, how did you find playing the Mothership system as we ran it?
Stressful.
But
Do you know what? On my little bit of paper, I've written the word stressful also. Not knowing that was a question, but thinking, what would I say if you asked that question?
But I think it's interesting because
Cool,
Mothership
and stressful.
Yeah, Mothership is a system that obviously stress and panic is one of the main mechanics of it. You've got your skills and everything else that you're rolling to try and achieve those ends. But those ends are made more difficult with the more stressful you are. And when you have a stress mechanic, I guess it then becomes part of the game, doesn't it? As a player, I know we always laugh like, oh God, I'm so exhausted at the end of the sessions. But like other tabletop games don't necessarily have a stress mechanic. I know there are lots that do as well. But was that a new mechanic that you've tried before? Is there anything else, any other sort of systems that you've had that have done it?
Only my second proper go at any kind of like role playing stuff.
Which is astonishing, Jim, to be fair, because
Yeah.
you've taken to it like a duck to water.
For me, I don't know. I suppose it was like because I'm kind of like getting used to the D&D mechanic, so like I understand how that works.
And there's quite a few. There's all
for me,
kinds of
it was-
layers
yeah.
to that game.
I'm kind of still learning that. So going into this, it was just like another kind of like learning curve for me. So
I think there's a thing where in other games, often it's like your dice roll is how you perform a task. You know, do you sing the song beautifully or you fall off the stage and into a bucket? That sort of stuff. Whereas the mechanic, the stress mechanic here and the panic thing, it's dictating how you feel. And so the role playing is kind of dictated by that. So it's like, oh, I messed up. Hey ho, never mind. It's like, I messed up. Oh God, now I'm gonna freak out.
I'm reminded of our like spiral.
The panic spiral.
Marine Panic Spiral, great album.
It was a tough second album, but they really nailed it.
Yeah, it took a while, but whew.
No, but I thought that really enhanced it, and I really enjoyed that was. You don't really get that with D&D, like a spiral of things going wrong, where it just fed itself and just became worse and worse.
Yeah,
it became funnier and funnier.
It was terrifying and funny at the same time.
Yeah,
because it's like this is just getting worse and worse. But oh my God, I can't stop laughing.
It feels like when you have to roll a dice in safe space, there's a lot more on the line. Like that roll could be, oh God, I'm going to die if I don't make this roll. Whereas usually in D&D, as Lizzie said, it's like, oh no, I'm going to fall over and make a prat of myself. I might get a wound, you know?
Yeah.
So yeah, rolling a dice in safe space, because I think it feels like you don't do it quite as often either.
Yeah.
So it feels a little more momentous is the wrong word, but it is a bit more important in a way.
Yeah, I'm glad you said that actually, PJ, because like looking at like obviously since the season we've been playing this season with the kind of work in progress first edition of Mothership, 0 edition, which you can download for free. I'm not sure if it's completely offline yet. It sort of lines up a little differently and they polish some stuff, but of course because it was a work in progress, I was running on rules that haven't quite been finalised yet. And certainly there was a Warden's operation manual, which I've just as the season ended, just before our final session, I started reading that. I got the final copy of it and I was reading that. And as soon as the season ended, I immediately messaged the players with like, oh my God, there's so many good things we can do. You know, but not so much like, it wasn't I'm going to torment you. It was more, this will make the experience better for everyone. And it's a system that is very pro homebrew, and I say homebrew, but you know, playing whatever session that you feel is comfortable for you. And they are very much, if you play it completely by the book, it could be very, 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 very difficult. As PJ said, like everything's on the line, you know, because you don't have high stats. You're not going to be this, you know, gifted by the gods character very quickly, because leveling up takes time as well. Although in safe space I'm leveling up, I'm doing it a little bit quicker, so it's just a little bit more fun for us all. But they do say in that Warden's manual, back to the point I was trying to make before I went off on tangents, which I'll do all evening by the way, to what you said, PJ, they say you shouldn't be rolling for everything. And it's something I've thought about as the season has gone on, because I thought, have I asked them to roll for too many things? You know, they say if the players want to pick up the, you know, if they just say they want to investigate the space, they investigate the space, because there's no real investigation checks. There's nothing like that. It should be if the players have thought about asking the right sort of questions, they should get the right results. And I hope that has felt like that for you guys. And on the bottom line is like, I hope I'm giving you enough roles, but also enough freedom to do what you want, if that makes sense.
I think it took a minute to get used to that, just coming off the back of like D&D and 5e rules, where like almost everything is a check.
Yeah.
So like not checking as much, it's like, are we just telling stories to each other?
Yeah.
Like,
Yeah.
But then it's like, oh shit, yeah, I've got a roll, and then it all goes horribly wrong. You're like,
Yeah.
And then it also feels like,
you know, can I do this and can I do that? And then now we're just, I'm going to do this, I'm going to do that.
Yeah.
But there's an element as well, because we can do anything, it always feels like a trap. He's giving this to me, it's going to fuck me over.
I think that's just your problem, PJ. No, because it is very much a game of, it's choice. I mean, every tabletop game is choice and consequence, isn't it? You know, that's one of the things I love about it, is it's constantly evolving, and we're telling these stories together and collaborating. And there's certainly a lot that happened in this season that was not written down, and I'll let you know. I'll let you know some of those bits a bit later on. But
I think that's something that I love about it, because there's certain games that you play that feel like you're kind of on rails.
Yeah.
And you've got a certain amount of time, and you've got to get from, you know, the party meets in a tavern. You know, they fight a small enemy, they go on a quest, they fight a medium-sized enemy, they fight a big enemy, and then everybody goes home.
Yeah.
And you know that if you start wandering, and I've run some of those games, and people have wandered because they want to wander. It's like, no, come back, you've got to get back on the rails.
Yeah.
And that can be frustrating. And so this one was like, how far can we push how far can we just lay some little detours on the railway and just, I'm going over here now, and how much will you let us get away with?
I love that
it didn't feel railish. It felt like
good.
Go off and do some things, but maybe we should also focus on the mission from night.
Yeah, good. Because I was, you know, obviously doing an actual play for an audience, things. It's a very different thing to like just playing at home, or your own sort of like home games and stuff like that. So with that in mind, you have to have a structure. There has to be kind of some sort of structure, and there do have to be in some ways rails for it. But like you say, it should be rails that it should feel like this story can go anywhere. You know, it's a sandbox with a direction, if that makes sense. That's the way I've kind of, because I dropped you in it and said, I mean, the way session 1 started was very much, here we are, here's where you've got to go, this is what's happening. And from there, the players were discovering, and the mysteries that were there, or maybe there were things that they discovered that I didn't think they were going to discover, or things that they completely missed, or sections of satellite relays that they didn't venture into.
Stop making it so dangerous.
I know.
Down the stairs.
Yeah. So
one of the very interesting things for me was, I expected, like when we got on the satellite relay, I thought, oh, we'll have some time on here. We'll have a wander around, have a look around, see what we can find, see what we can plunder. And it was very much kind of like, no, we need to get off. We need to get off now. And then we got to the Icarus, and I thought, oh, well, now's going to be our chance to, I had a plan. I was going to go to the engine room, and I was going to get everything that we needed, and it was going to be fine, And it was like, no, we need to get off. We need to get off now. It was really kind of like beautifully done, the way it was just like, this is probably what would happen in real life.
All of Zam's broken dreams floating like stars in the cosmos.
All those engine rooms.
Yeah, because this is, for anyone watching or listening, this is a homebrew campaign. This is something that I've created specifically for this. There's wonderful modules for Mothership, loads of third-party creators that certainly in the future I will be shouting out and using some of their tables, because Mothership's also a game about tables, and who doesn't love rolling on a table when creating a campaign, things like that. But this was very much, I've created this world, sort of galaxy, but I don't have a file that big of, everything's not completely locked down, because the way I run it is, you've got to have the concrete bits in place, you've got to have the structure there, but the players are laying the track as we're going. You know, we're laying the track as the train's just behind us, kind of thing. Which means that the game can go anywhere. And I honestly, I will tell you this. A good portion of the second half of this season was made up. There was a good point. There was, like, we had the season break, and I know we had the break for the viewers and stuff. I know we kept playing a little bit of catch up, but there was a space where I had to think, okay, I thought we were going this, and it's every DM, every GM, every warden, every storyteller's game is, you think you've put all the signs pointing right, and the players are going left or straight ahead. And it was one of those, okay, so I've got to pivot, but what felt right to sort of pivot? Keeping the story, keeping obviously the bones of the story and where we were going. And because of those wonderful choices that you all made, it made that so much easier. Because by then, by the events that happened in the season and what the players the characters had been through, completely gave me ammunition and options to sort of like, okay, now I can develop this bit and this bit. And I'm sure it's the same for player characters as well. You know, that other people are saying things, or an NPC will say something, which will then give your character. What was it like evolving your characters from the character sheet in session 1? I know we did a session 0 that no one will ever see, but that was pretty chaos as well. But what was it like taking your character from session 1 to session 14?
Short-lived initially.
We'll come back to that again. We'll come.
Your character from session 3 to session.
Session 3. Oh. Brutal. I didn't think that would happen.
Has he really been around that long?
Was it 3
yes,
or 4?
session 4, which was the technical issue episode.
Oh yeah.
For anyone watching.
That was a great one. Got you to sing and everything.
Oh, there was.
Oh yes.
I know, so it must have been 3 because 4 was the aftermath, wasn't it?
Yeah,
so
4 was the aftermath.
where...
Yeah, 4 was saying goodbye to Dick Sloan and saying hello to Blaze KELVIN. And I know anyway, the recap edition was not what was originally planned, and that session we had, it's one of my great regrets that no one will ever see that session, because it was moving. It was also funny. They got me to sing. That never happens. And that will never happen again.
Yeah, that's why we had technical issues. Technical issues. Can't possibly play that.
Sony said it'll breach my contract if no. No, but that was quite interesting. But like, obviously, if we start off with you, Gav, because obviously you had a character in mind with Dick Sloan, this android. And he was building beautifully until he was pretty much cut short in episode 3, Cut and Run. What was that experience like for you? Because it was weird. It was a character death without it being a character death, wasn't it? It was because he's not dead. Something I want to stress.
That's why it wasn't as, I don't know, heart-wrenching, because it was like, well, I can kind of, he's just put in storage, like it can kind of come back to him, so it was all right to kind of let him go, so to speak. But I don't feel like I got to like develop him massively, so it was kind of like, I don't know where he could have gone. I know that they were starting to build up more of a relationship with the captain and sort of their sort of friendship, because they've both been awake for most of it. Yeah.
She's known him the longest out of everyone.
Yeah. But no, I didn't. It was. I'm just glad we had a nice, gory, horrible character death, because we haven't had any since. And I'm just waiting for it. We're overdue, I feel.
Yeah. Some maimings.
It was
Wendy
pretty brutal, but the set pieces, the action set pieces, when they've kicked off, they've been pulse pounding. Like the choices you made, like Wendy basically tearing it, getting Dick Sloan free by tearing him in half. What was that choice like for you, Lizzie, at that point?
well, that's no Marine gets left behind. You know, it's like he's one of us, and it's weird because you're not Lizzie making a choice, you're Wendy making a choice, and it's very much like, well, that's her mindset, is you don't leave someone behind, and also he's an android, so ripping his legs off is not terminal. You know, it gets as much of him back as possible, and you know the captain will know what to do. Yeah. Also, it's really icky and gooey and gory, and it turns out that's something I've quite enjoyed. That's more player development than character development. Well, and character development.
Yeah. Wendy's been fascinating though. Like, obviously, we're not going to give away too much because there's plenty of backstories for all of these characters. But Wendy's choices, not just in the action moments, and I think the rest of the players will agree, there's been certain, like the head shaving moment, I think we all sort of went, what? You know, that switch you flicked was it was a pivotal moment in the campaign, I think. Just that, it doesn't need to be action, it doesn't need to be something blowing up or someone dying. That one choice that now she's thinking differently just changed so much. And
that's kind of one of the consequences of a Marine panic spiral was that she ended up with a phobia. She was frightened, she was having nightmares, she had a feeling of doom, and there was another one, she was a coward, so she would run away from fights. So all of the things about strength and bravery and stuff that are kind of somewhere in Wendy's background were gone, and her whole world that she had now built for herself and her kind of temple and her god that she had found, it's like gone. It's like, well, what do you do?
Because she had built a foundation, without giving away too much, she had built a foundation for herself to help her mental well-being in a sense, wasn't it?
Oh, yeah. She'd become a very peaceful lady who liked octopuses.
And then
kind of cool.
It was a bit of a kleptomaniac.
Yeah.
Well, all of the little kind of thing. And again, that was
I'm taking the gold beading off this
piping,
the gold piping
magpie.
And Post-its because of this kind of temple of the octopus that she'd built that you can keep decorating.
You were so gutted about using that coffee cup. I remember that on the monster. You thought, I'm having this. Oh no, I'm gonna.
Well, that was just me. That was Lizzie being a doofus going, oh my God, it's a coffee cup in space and it stays where it is. And it was like an hour later you went, you know it's magnetic, right? Like science.
Oh, God.
Yeah. No, not so much that.
Yeah.
So thank you for the second coffee cup.
Oh well, of course, you know. The warden gives and he takes away. And then he gives back again. But counterpoint, like someone like Wendy to Doc Forrest's. Now, PJ, you said to me in the message you didn't expect it to get so, oh shit, my storyline's here.
Yeah.
But no, I will say that you played it chef's kiss through the whole thing.
Yeah, I wasn't expecting you to spring Sarah on us, basically. Because I think we've established in the show Sarah was friends with the Doc's daughter back on Earth.
Yeah.
And the Doc is very much, obviously you and I know a lot.
Yeah.
But he wants to play it very close to his chest. I think I've dropped hints here and there of a couple of things. I don't know how much has been picked up on. But yeah, I just wasn't expecting that to come up at all as early as it did.
So when a moment like that comes in, how does that change your playing style for a game like this? Because as we say, this is more, we're just telling a story together kind of thing. And you're forced to go, oh, right, okay, so I've got a thing like this. This isn't a mechanical thing. This is a personal and emotional thing.
I think it makes me... I'm thinking more about the backstory as I'm playing. So before we'd run into Sarah, I was just this pompous alcoholic doctor. You know, that's...
So you still are?
Yeah. Can we at least quote doctor? Because Wendy and Lizzie still have some like...
He's a doctor. He's got his doctorate and everything. That's a fact. And he fixed your arm, so
Yeah, no, thank you for that.
Yeah. It's almost like he's too qualified for the job he's got.
Shut up, Vince.
Yeah.
But once Sarah entered the equation, almost every single action I was taking as the Doc, I was thinking, how do I not reveal my backstory?
Yeah.
Because, yeah, it's something he doesn't want to come out. And we'll be looking to try and sort of avoid that, but while also, you know, he's said he's got a reason for being where he is and a purpose, and he's also got to move that forward at the same time. So it just meant a little more thoughtfulness over what I did and said as him, I think, once Sarah was on the scene.
I think Sarah being she's quite a major NPC. I mean, this campaign's definitely been a case. There's been more NPCs in this than I thought there was going to be. Certainly from the Icarus. I'll tell you now, I didn't expect you to get that many people off that ship. But yeah, Sarah was also, and the way you played it, PJ, was a gift for me, because we're just bouncing off each other then, and the way I saw the Doc switch to, you know, to caring. I mean, you know, but I didn't. It was easier to be like, okay, I can see he's all about making sure she's okay, and in those moments, it's easier to sort of, when you're trying to think about a million things going on in the story, things, it's a pillar, it's a focus. You have that, you know that's there. And it's easier to, you don't have to think about, well, she's panicking, she's going to run off and do this, and they're going to have to, because you leveled the Doc in, keep making sure she was okay, it made things easier for me as well. So thank you, PJ.
You're welcome. But I think as well, though, because she's got this connection, like, he couldn't give a shit about Roy, you know.
Don't tell Lizzie that.
But because Sarah has this connection to his past, that's why that's brought that out of him, I think.
And I think it's something, as we go on, more details may come to light, and more character development will.
Well, this is it. My thing now is, I'm wondering, will the Doc's backstory come out naturally in the story, or will it come out in the season 2 wrap-up show, because he died very early on before we could get to his backstory?
I know. Well, the thing is, right, Doc is the scientist class in Mothership. Now, the scientist class is usually, it's all brains and less brawn. Of course, there's going to be violent encounters. And Mothership does say, don't run straight into violent encounters, because violent encounters will usually end very badly. Like if there's you face a xenomorph in the Alien movies, you probably, one-on-one, you're not walking away from it, are you? So Mothership keeps that sort of like, let's be realistic in this situation. And there were certainly moments, I mean, a game has to have action. It has to have the, moments and fights and puzzles and things. And it was interesting whenever we dropped into these encounters, PJ, you going, there's nothing I can do.
See,
stand at the back with a meat hammer.
This has given the Doc a reputation as a coward, but I say he's not. He just knows his limitations.
Look, spoilers for anyone who hasn't watched the finale yet. The Doc got involved in quite a big way with an armoured jeep.
He had a weapon.
He had a weapon and he drove it. But like, it's moments like that, isn't it? You got to, I think when you build sort of encounters, and it is because when we don't have maps, we don't have tokens, and certainly you can play this game like that. It's laying out with theatre of the mind the things that are there. If you have a room full of trinkets, every trinket is a weapon. Every desk is somewhere that you can hide underneath. Everything can be used, and then it's up to the players going, well, I'm just running over here. And certainly there were moments where the fight was happening and the Doc ran somewhere else and was looking through, and he discovered information because of that choice, which is great. I mean, the Doc has, that arc's been a lot bigger than I thought it was going to be, PJ, and I hope you've enjoyed it, because it's certainly,
yeah, it's been a lot of fun for sure. And I did like surprising everyone with the car as well. That was
lunatic.
Yeah. Yeah, yeah. It was that moment of everyone's in front of you, and you're there. I'm going to start the car. Yeah, but we go from the thought-provoking and mysterious .FORREST to ZAM BRAZEL. A character.
You see is what you get.
What you see is what you get, or is it? Now, I know, Jim. You say it is what you get, but I see layers to ZAM, and I have totally seen layers during this whole campaign. As much as you fought it, sometimes you thought, just let me go.
I like to really steer him back to being grumpy and being horrible to people.
Oh,
Yep.
Really, he lost his way a little bit, and I've had to like really push him back. And then people that he was being nasty to, we had to make friends with, because then we had to get stuff done. It's been horrible. Terrible fun.
Because you created the most blue collar of all of the characters. I mean, he's a mechanic, isn't he? He's a spaceship mechanic. He's an engine monkey.
hammer guy.
Yep.
It was, but it was important to me that he was like surly and didn't really want to make friends with anyone.
Yeah.
And those were the kind of things that I was really going, because the idea was like he would always be in the engine room.
Yeah.
Wouldn't get involved. And like, that's where he was, just leave him there kind of thing.
Yeah.
That seemed like if he's going to be like running the engines of the ship, that's where he's going to be.
But he has these moments. And I remember when Bex, the engineer from Cassius Prime, was it her that said, like, was it her? I think it was her that said, for someone that doesn't like people, you've chose to spend 18 months in a small space with a group of people. Yeah. That's an odd choice.
There's reasons for doing that, though, isn't he?
Yeah.
So,
Yeah.
It was what gets him into trouble. Right, what I do to get him into trouble, pretty much, is sometimes I'll think, well, what's the funniest thing he can do here?
Yeah.
So, like, when they first met Bex, and at that point, I was already kind of like, oh, he's been a bit too nice to people. He's been like quite helpful. Like, I need him to be like, back to like surly and nasty. And he meets Bex, and the first thing he does is he hands her his like luggage or whatever, and treats her like she's a valet or whatever. And that was like, oh, that's going to be quite funny. We'll do that.
Yeah.
And then he's got to make friends with her then.
And then
it becomes like really pivotal to like they need stuff done. Oh, speak to Bex. It's like, oh.
Yeah.
I made another connection.
Oh, no one made another friend.
Oh, shit.
Vince could tell how much I was fighting when he was in that bar on his own.
Yeah.
How much he was fighting. Because at one point you said to me, does he stay at the bar or does he go to the table? And I was going to think, he stays at the bar. So if you put me on a table, you're going to put people around me. And like eventually you managed to crowbar me.
It was because you I think you critically failed and fell off. Oh, no. You fell off the stool and they were going to look after you then.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, I mean, but that does bring up a point that I do want to address, because obviously this game is all about, it should always be about everyone having fun, the GM, the warden, and the players. And you should never put players in a position that they don't want to be. And that was, even though it was funny and everything, it was a moment I thought afterwards, Jim really didn't want to do that. Which is why I stepped back on it. Do you know what I mean? When he was like...
Well, okay, no, but the difference is, though, is that Jim really didn't want to do it for ZAM, but it was funny and it worked, so let's go with it.
Yeah.
And the more like I fight it, the better it makes it for...
Well, as long as you enjoyed it, that was the main thing. And it worked. The scene worked perfectly, and because of that scene, it meant that things could happen later on that happened. That, and I think the interesting of ZAM being this surly, and certainly Jim, your way of playing him is like, I've been too nice, I've got to pull it back, and then he's nice again, and then you got to pull it back, and then he's
it's
nice
horrible.
again, and then you got to pull it back. There's got to be a moment where Jim realizes that maybe Zam is a little nicer than Jim thinks he is.
Well, I mean, like, let's face it, he's basically me. He's basically how I feel inside when I go to work.
Oh, we've been
every
so
day.
mean about
Oh
Zam.
God, yeah, everyone's been awful to him as well.
No, but it's basically like the way I look at him is like if I could get away with what he could get away with, those are the kind of things you want to do when you're frustrated in a job and like people are like getting on you and it's like go away, leave me alone.
I'm gonna go to a strange
you
place. I
can't
want
do
to.
it.
I want to
Hit
take
things with a
my
hammer.
big laser cutter with me.
And no, but my problem is that like I kind of like creep into it then he gets a bit nice and helpful and like because that's what I would do, and then it's like no, that's not Zam, you got to reel it back, and then like so
Yeah.
it is like this constant struggle.
Well, and
I got really like when we were on the Icarus, I got really protective over Wendy.
yeah, and he has
Like,
he has been. He
doing
certainly.
doing stuff to save Wendy, get her the boots because she didn't have boots and that kind of thing. And then I looked at those decisions and I thought, oh, should he have done that? Because he's supposed to be like really mean. But
Well, I
Really
love
drunk,
that.
though.
I love that because there was that moment when we went into the bar and the dining room of the Icarus, and Wendy and Zam are at the bar because they've just decided that actually after 18 months in space and shit and crap and steel floors and nothing, sitting at a luxury high-end bar is exactly what they want to do.
Yeah.
And we don't care about what's going on. People having a fight in the kitchen. Nah, that's not for us. We're just going to sit here and throw peanut robot. It's great.
Yeah.
Was it
So they have this
Klaus?
little bonding thing, which is probably just because you've been around someone for so long.
Yeah.
Drunk Zam was really fun to do as well.
Drunk Sam is amazing.
Yeah.
I think that's how he makes friends.
Yeah.
When he gets drunk around them, he suddenly.
I do.
But then he
Like, that's-
goes a little bit too far, and it's like,
Yeah,
it's a
yeah.
wedding reception again. Oh, really?
Yeah,
Oh. And you get the feeling that the crew have heard that story
Yeah.
quite a lot.
yeah.
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 Like when one of my favourite moments. Well, there's so many favourite moments. One of the highlights is Wendy running off to join a fight, and Zam going, "They all just leave you in the end, don't they, Klaus?"
Well, I'm trying to build into him like a deep disdain of robots.
Yeah. Although
Yeah, there's
a deep disdain of robots, but in the session that no one will ever see, he actually quite liked Dick Sloan, didn't he? In the end, he had a begrudging respect for him.
Yeah.
He wasn't nice to him.
Yeah, he seems to get paired with people that he's that kid that gets picked last, and then somebody just kind of gets stuck with him for a bit. And I think Dick was stuck with him for a bit, and Wendy was stuck with him for a bit, and then he just kind of like he just has to accept that go on, I'll get to know you a bit.
Yeah. But he's the character that is the one that's like, look, I just want to fix this. He's desperate to fix things, even if they're unfixable. Like, he probably doesn't have the knowledge to fix a hyperdrive coil, something that is probably like fixing the wires on a nuclear bomb.
Yeah.
But he'll be like, yeah, I'll give it a go.
Like when I open my
And the
big
only
mouth
thing
and
he
say,
can't fix
"Let's
is
build a
his
bomb,"
heart.
Yeah.
Yeah.
We're going to the Richard Curtis season next, aren't
Yeah.
we? The kind of like
Yeah.
rom-com season.
I tell you what, the gift you gave me though was Uptown Girl. That was a pure gift. That was amazing.
Yeah.
As soon as that happened, there was like a little switch that went on and go, yeah, that's it.
Yeah. But I think also, like, Zam's and all the characters are a great example of, like, it's science fiction horror, and we always have the warning at the beginning, like there could be violence. There isn't necessarily in every session, but it can go to dark places. But there's lightness in the characters, and certainly in and players, we're all just having a laugh anyway, and we're laughing every session. Certainly in the way sometimes that you're throwing each other under the bus. Like, oh yeah, we don't want to meet up with Zam. We're just going to go to the bar without him. And everyone's pretty much stuck to that. Like, Gav, to venture forward onto, please, Kelvin.
Please. Fucking voice,
the
man.
walking advert for throat lozenges. A, is your throat okay, Gavin, after a season of doing that?
Yeah, it's not too bad.
Yeah.
It's not been as gruff as I
Yeah.
was
Yeah.
starting out.
Yeah. He's the one, as we mentioned, like, Dick Sloan, unfortunately, is no longer with us currently. So Blaze was awoken from cryosleep. And when we did our character creation session, I got everyone to create 2 characters. I always knew that there was going to be a backup. There was going to be, like, you know, I didn't know quite what was going to happen. And I didn't want it to be a lazy sort of introduction of, oh, you bump into a ship and the ship is this person. And then, you know, I wanted it to be almost still feel like a crew. Even though there is a little bit of a mystery in there with Wendy's other character that we've hinted at. And I wonder if our viewers and listeners have picked up on the moments I've mentioned this other character that's in the cryopods. But obviously Blaze was just...
Wendy is immortal.
Yeah. Which,
I think she
yeah,
might
yeah.
be.
Yeah.
No, genuinely.
Yeah, Jesus. And certainly you rolled up a Marine. Like, just this. And the way it rolled was just... I mean, it could have been quite dark, some of the things you got in the trinkets.
Yeah, I got was it opera glasses?
Yeah. You got the military dress uniform.
Yeah, so like the was it like officer and a...
Yeah, officer and a gentleman. You had a
That's what I'm picturing.
revolver and 1 bullet.
With 1 bullet.
Yeah, 1 bullet,
So-
which makes
so
you
my-
think, oh dear.
My initial thing was like he's a little bit suicidal.
Yeah.
But once he came to life, no, he's just a big stupid meathead. I feel like he wouldn't have the emotional depth or self-reflection to actually want to
Yeah.
exit.
Yeah, so to
no.
go from that sort of like almost a cookie cutter, sort of like, right, I've got that template for it. It's giving you almost more roadmap to create this character, isn't it? Because he's been on a bit of a journey in the 10 episodes that he's been part of. What's that been like for you?
I mean, in the more recent episodes, especially when like there was the boxing match and Wendy tried to pull out some backstory, there was a bit of panic because it was like, oh, I've not thought of much backstory here. Because it was a lot of him, like his playstyle. I had the like right, basically, I just wanted him to be like macho Randy Savage, like just some big meathead,
Cream of the crop.
ooh, boom,
Yeah.
like
Yeah.
all that stuff.
Yeah.
Comedy relief kind of thing.
Yeah.
And then sort of playing off of everyone else. That's kind of how I've been playing him. He's more reactionary.
Because you enjoy that play style, anyway, don't you, Gav? I mean, you love having a character and then bouncing off the other players. I've noticed this in other games.
Yeah, see, it's kind of well, we're all telling a story together, so it's kind of like I want to be able to play with other people rather than just like I'm not the main character.
Yeah. Although he's certainly going to get some focus in season 2, surely.
Oh God.
He's grown and grown and grown. So you know, from this.
That's the steroids, Vince.
Yeah. So those pain pills, you got
Oh my God, the pain pills.
awfully close to getting addicted to those. I think you rolled a critical, which meant that you weren't addicted. And I was like, you absolute bastard.
Yeah, I've kind of lent off that now.
Yeah.
I think I'm trying to get Wendy addicted.
Yeah. Well, she won't take them because of her injury.
Because pain is good.
Yeah. Keep taking it.
Yeah. But
That's how you know you're alive.
Breathing, that's how you know you're alive.
I knew you weren't a doctor.
so, Gav, I mean, obviously, you've played 2 characters in this campaign. Yes. So you're the first one to start your second character. And as we all know, whenever you play any tabletop role-playing game, if you're a player, it takes a couple of sessions before things start to click. At what point did Blaze Kelvin click into place and you thought, this is how I'm going to play him? I know you've got like the simple template, but there must be a point where you cottoned on to, this is how I'm going to enjoy playing him.
I think there was one moment when the captain said to me, like, make sure everyone gets back. and it felt like, oh, okay, like that's going to be my character. He's going to really pay attention to that, and that's why he was very much like, everyone needs to leave, we all need to go, and like make sure Zam didn't bloody sacrifice himself.
It's almost as if he was doing that just to spite you, though, isn't it? You know.
It's like, damn you, you're gonna make me fail.
But then, like, Zam was the one that helped save Blaze Kelvin's life.
Yeah.
We don't talk about that.
No, that kind of got glossed over pretty quickly. But I think
not after the little tete-a-tete we had in the storage closet. Yeah, I got really angry with Blaze at that point when he was just like, when we went into that one room.
Yeah.
It was like the pool, and then there was an equipment locker or something.
Oh yes, emergency equipment, and of course,
and then we opened it, and he was all like, and like, the hackles really got like raised at that point, and it was, yeah.
So the character progression for us is like, it's gone from really antagonistic to ignoring each other. So that's progress.
Yeah,
we're on the fast track to being friends.
And also,
we haven't had to do a lot together. So
this is
because we've been avoiding it.
This campaign has certainly been a test of, when they say never split the party, it means nothing for this campaign. I've had to deal with it.
No, you just.
I've had to just deal with it.
Leave one of them on their own.
Yeah.
Go off and have fun.
He's not bitter.
I feel like it's bad for you.
And spend your own money.
Oh yeah, and there he is with the black credit card.
Not anymore.
Oh, Gav, your reaction to like that card, especially when Doc Forrest dropped it into the dust. How did that make you feel, Gavin?
Quite frustrated, because as a player, you're like, you try not to meta game, because obviously I know there's a black card that's got unlimited money on it, so that would be really helpful to poor broke Blaze. But it was trying to find the moment when he could realise that there's this infinite money card after he spent all of his money, that he could react and be like, oh, how long have we had this? This would have been handy.
Yeah.
The weird thing was, we all went to those rooms, and then we were all gonna, like, the idea was then that we all go to the bar, wasn't it? And I remembered I had that card, and I thought, oh well, what Zam will do then is he'll use that, and then everybody can have their drinks on that. And then you all decided to leave him behind. And that was when I thought, all right, no, okay, I'm gonna keep this moment. And then, like, as soon as I'd ordered those drinks, and then I went, oh, and I'll use the black credit card, and you all went,
it was
that's
beautiful.
what you get.
Yeah,
That's what you get.
I think that's like one of my favourite things about it, is like when you have moments like that where it feels almost pre-written, but it's like, no, we're all just goofing around, and then you get moments like that.
Yeah, I mean the campaign itself has been very it's felt very fluid, and it's felt natural the way it's sort of gone, and the interactions, which have given those character moments of, you know, players going, or, you know, some of my favourite moments watching back, because when we're doing the sessions, I'm not necessarily watching everyone's individual screens intently. So when I watch back and I see you all reacting at the same time to certain things, I think, yes, I got that point. Maybe I think in some ways I went too overboard with how intense and scary I made certain things. Because whenever you went into somewhere, you wanted to leave immediately.
But that's because of the character. The characters are like a junk crew. They're garbage collectors in space.
Yeah.
And, you know, even before Blaze came along, you know, they were very much like, nobody's interested in having a fight.
Yeah,
or doing anything particularly personally risky.
Yeah.
We just want to do the job and get on.
Yeah.
And then you gave us fights to do, and it's like, well, okay, we'll fight the little creepy crawly arm thing coming out the ceiling. We'll do that, and then
The
okay, then
little,
quite large arm thing. In my head, it was quite little. And then we'll fight the next bit of that, and then suddenly it's like, we're not going down those stairs. No, why are we going down that ladder?
yeah.
Stop that. That's not who we are.
And
I was well up for going down that ladder at that point.
yeah.
Jim was well up for going down that ladder.
Yeah.
It's creating a map. It's like when you play a video game and there's the map with all the question marks, and you think, oh, I want to go there, but maybe you shouldn't. And certainly things like that, moments like that, have been a learning for me as well. I mean, and we've all had the dungeons or the keeps or the treasure hoards that players will never discover because they've gone in a different direction. And with Echo 237, which was the first major sort of dramatic part of the show, when you were breaking apart a satellite relay station, I knew I had a little map for it, and I created a little story for it as well, but I can only give some. I wasn't going to give the whole story of it away. There was little hints because this hadn't been used for a long time, this place. So there were hints, but other things had happened to it since then. So it's building in that, when you play a game and you walk into this room and it's been destroyed, and there's little hints to things that are happening there. Maybe I mean, it was an immensely fun set. I think that worked out quite well in the end, how that all ended up. Like, we were in there 2 sessions, I believe. We were on Echo, weren't we? I think you got there. Because it was essentially a small mini dungeon sort of thing. Before I knew the Icarus was coming, and the players knew nothing about it. I told them at the beginning of the campaign, here's the story synopsis. Bunch of junkers, they take on a contract that may be more trouble than they think. They had no idea about what the horrors were. They have no idea what the whole thing is. So they're learning, as you lovely people are as well. But there were hints. Hopefully there were hints to it with Echo 237. But also I'm sort of learning as it goes along. Sort of like, I can be clearer about this bit. I'm sort of learning where the players will bob and when they'll weave, so then I know what to give them later, which will mean that they will enjoy that path more.
And I think there is that back to that on rails thing. When we got to the 237, it's like, okay, we could just turn around and go, nah, not going on that, look, it's broken. Ooh. But we can't, because you built a thing and it's the first thing you've built for us, so we need to go in.
Yeah,
you don't want to disappoint your warden.
Yeah, exactly. And just ignore all the closed doors and just go to the thing.
We'll compromise and we'll look at one of the floors.
Yeah.
Let's not open any doors. Let's just take the panels off the outside and away we go.
Because it had that, like you say, Lizzie, it had that rail of, this is a place you have to go because you've been contracted to do it. Well, it was an optional job that you were essentially doing for more credits. And certainly you did cut up a fair chunk of it. But when you were there, I wasn't going to be like, you're locked in, you can't get out. It should be a case of like, when you want to get out, you can get out, and certainly in quite spectacular fashion. That what happened and the creature that was, I love the way it all played out. Sorry, Dick. Pull one out.
Pull one out.
But that moment was brilliant. ZAM cutting a hole in just dropping down with the laser cutter, and just everyone trying to get out and Dick not quite making it. And there were so many moments as well. That was a moment of like dice rolls as well. Like Wendy was firing, she was trying to fire down at this thing, if I remember correctly, but you weren't succeeding. So it was like, right, how do I rule this? But then when you managed to get off the ship and ZAM went down to the laser cutter, the ship's laser cutter, which is industrial size, and cut it up. Just those moments. This is why I love tabletop role playing, because what the players' choices give you, everyone's rolling together, aren't we? We're all improving, and just that you know, we're steering it all together. As much as hopefully the players will never know what I'm making up and what has been written down.
You have a tell, don't you?
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm not going to tell you what it is, but
Oh,
it's when you sit there going,
is that you want to do that? We'll be back in 5 minutes. Although that's an interesting question. Like, what do my players think was completely off the cuff?
Boxing match.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's the only one I know for sure.
Yeah.
bar fight.
The bar.
You probably knew there was going to be a bar fight.
I had an inkling. You go into a bar, there could be a bar fight.
Okay.
I thought. The way it played out, I didn't expect, but certainly Wendy's choice afterwards with the sandwich, buying the sandwich and going up to the person that she beats senseless. That was a right, okay.
Yeah, I remember your face on that one. That was a definite like.
That was like, what makes
why is she going there?
Yeah,
what's she doing?
She wants to. Oh yeah, fight club.
Why is she waiting outside this? She's going to talk to the head of security about something important.
I honestly thought you were going to the head of security.
Yeah.
I was like, right, okay, this makes sense. You know, networking. Oh no, she's going to the bloke she kicked the shit out.
And I didn't think she was going to give it to him. I thought she was going to eat it in front of him.
Same,
To go,
yeah.
Look, I can still eat, and not with a straw.
Yeah.
Yeah, she went a bit chaos agent.
Yeah. But that gave birth to a whole scene that was amazing in the next episode. I thought it was going to be in that episode. Because certainly before we went to break, I immediately started to pair up Blaze KELVIN. When I was putting that together, Banjo Flanagan completely made up on the spot.
Really?
Black Market Banjo?
Yeah.
Given how
Oh, I
keen he
love
was.
Black Market Banjo.
Yeah. At the moment, in that specific moment, speaking of Blaze, Banjo Flanagan was made up. Banjo Flanagan then became something afterwards.
Genuinely, how important he was to the ending. I assumed he was a planned plot point.
Yeah, from the very beginning.
Yeah.
Got Banjo in your back pocket the entire time.
There are certain like NPCs that were there to be important, and I think it's important for just GMs and stuff. It's always, if ever you create like an NPC or you create like the Magician's Tower, and the players don't go there, you've still got that. So just move it around. You know, this NPC is there. They've never met them. Well, why can't they be that person then? Just tweak them. And I knew with Cassius Prime, there were certain points. There were certain sort of linchpins. And Banjo Flanagan, which may be the best name I've ever created. It doesn't get better than that. He fit that piece of like, and then when I thought, well, there's going to be a black market banjo, it doesn't get better than that. You know, it just it's the way this game and this whole season has just everything's sort of clicked into place. I mean, for me, it's sort of those moments when I am sort of skidding or I'm on my heels. I've got things by the choices that you guys have made.
Vince, can I ask you related to that? What that we've done has been the biggest surprise for you that you've had to react to?
Ooh.
That's exactly what I was going to ask. Yeah.
What have we fucked up for you?
It's not so much. Well, there's been a few surprises certainly. The Fight Club was one of them. Wendy's question was a massive what?
I felt so bad.
But I loved it
because then you're like, oh, we've only got a couple of episodes left, and then it's the end of the season. It's like, oh shit.
But it felt natural. That's the thing. What I loved about it is like, oh yeah, of course, this makes total sense. And by creating that, it then leads on to this, and you can see other things. You saw some more graffiti. You saw these other bits that were happening,
and the black market, which then helped us get ammunition and stuff. It's just dovetail.
Yeah. I think the things that I wasn't expecting, and I think it's purely down to the general, you create something and the players don't necessarily go there. Like, for instance, it started with Echo 237, the treasure hoard that was on the bottom floor that you didn't get. I was like, that's where all the goodies were, but you didn't go. In my head I was thinking, but all the good stuff's down there. but all the good stuff's... Alright, well, the monsters just could come and get you then.
The monster was down there as well, Vin.
Yeah, the monster was down there as well, you know. But but it wasn't. Nothing should ever be an unwinnable situation.
Tell that to Dick.
And down,
you literally told us at the beginning of the game you were going to try and kill us all repeatedly.
Yeah. But downstairs in because I can talk about Echo 237 because that doesn't exist anymore. Down there were hints to what the place was, and certainly it had nothing. I can say it had nothing to do with the creatures on the ship. I know some of you at that point were like, "This has happened to this. This must have been what happened to the satellite relay station." That wasn't. It was basically a decommissioned satellite relay station, and something hit it. And when something hit it, part of that something stayed on it. But the mystery and the way you were like, oh, well, is this part of this? You know, there were certain hints to certain bits. I don't think I was very clear. And this was one of the things that I thought, this was going to be a bit of a moment. The creature that was on Echo 237, it was, as well as it being a hideous nightmare that had jaws and like techno-organic monstrosity. If you remember, there was something attached to it. It had an android attached to it. The thing I wasn't clear about, and I should have remembered it at the time, it was wearing the same sort of overalls that Hutch was wearing on Icarus, because it was a maintenance droid from Icarus. So it was one of those, right, okay. And you always get these little things that like, oh, okay, I should have mentioned that. Because I think only Wendy saw the back as this creature was rising up. I believe she saw that something was, and the thing on the back, the android that was part of it, was not, I want to kill you all. Yeah, it looked like it didn't want to be there. It looked like it was in distress. So there were lots of different.
Wendy would not have been noticing.
Yeah, she was just trying to get out. Yeah. And so much was happening at that point. So seeing the bottom of Echo 237 was the first one, and there was a lot. There was more going on with the Icarus as well. But quite rightly, none of you ever made the choice that I thought, whoa, why don't? Oh, that's a bad choice. So you won't see my glorious things. Every choice you made was the right choice. Everything you did was brilliant, because you would. You'd want to get out, and you had survived. The moment you had the survivors as well, and you wanted to get out, it's like, these people need to get out. I'm going to make it difficult for them, but I need to facilitate that. If I was just going to go, all the doors are locked and you're trapped inside this nightmare, knowing by that point that the players, everything was leveling up, their panic, everything was going bad. That's just me being cruel. If I'm going to, I don't want to run a torture game as much as the players say I torture them.
I think if we'd rolled a whole set of Marines in the first, in the character creations, we want to do a heavy military Marine kind of thing, you'd have just left us in there.
Yeah.
In the Icarus and said, get on with it then.
Yeah.
But that's not what we rolled.
That's not what it. Yeah.
And it's not how we set out.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah. And the way, it certainly led to a thrilling escape from the Icarus, as this ship was realizing
Sam,
you were trying to get off, and Zam being a hero.
Because the Icarus was it was infecting the androids, wasn't it? Would that have been harder for us if Dick had been with us rather than Blaze?
Tell us, Vince.
Let's go to a break.
Yeah, I think
that's where Dick would have died.
Yeah, possibly. It was interesting because we weren't at that. He wasn't there at that point. I guess I never really had to think about it. And the bits with Dick that came up later in the season were things that were percolating in the brain. They for the longest moment in time, the moment on Cassius Prime where you see Dick Sloan was the end of the season. That was how the season was going to end. But due to the events that happened, that went forward a couple of episodes. That's still there. That's still, whatever that thing is, whatever that is happening, has just meant that season 2 is going to be even more exciting.
Yeah, Gav will have to play 2 characters.
I'm saying nothing. But I will say, I did not take the idea of taking someone's character and doing something without their consent. And Gav, I messaged you afterwards. He doesn't know all the details, but I said, "Are you okay if I just do this little bit?" Which is
I said yes.
Yeah,
so everyone knows.
yeah. He's like, "Yeah, go for it." Yeah.
He said no, and he did it anyway.
Yeah.
He's ruined my dick.
Oh dear, we missed out on a season of those jokes. Can you imagine that?
Yeah.
Ever since I ripped his dick in half. Oh dear. But no, so the first season has been fun for you all. I think so yes, to go back to your point, PJ, the Icarus, there was a lot going on there. And certainly I thought about, that was one of those, I thought about the layout and what's on this level. And I know Lizzie was like, I want to go to the spa. There was all these little things for what was essentially like a space Titanic kind of thing. It was a small scale, like luxury yacht. And you didn't see them. But that's not to say that these things don't still exist, or things are changing and ever evolving. Who knows if the Icarus will be seen again?
I'll put all that effort into blowing it up.
You did.
Lizzie lost an arm.
You did.
Sorry, Wendy lost an arm.
Thank you.
Yeah.
That's method acting, that is.
Stressful game.
Yeah. Yeah, go on.
Vince, how did it feel when you were being Regis Valmont?
Oh,
And we were
I never hated you so much.
so
Vince.
mean to you
Yeah.
because you were horrible. We hate you.
Never hated you
Yeah.
so much. And I call you a prick every session.
Yeah, I know that's just your way of saying you love me.
Was it fun to get your kind of acting chops around Regis?
I think Regis he's a fun one. Regis has been there from the beginning. He's one of the ones that's like, he is kind of a major point to the story in some ways. And I knew, this story has got influences all over, but we all know that the corporate suit that doesn't care, and I knew going into it, they're going to hate this guy. They're really going to hate this guy. It wasn't, and I did not play it, and hopefully if you see it, I'm not playing it in a chew the scenery, you're all below me kind of way. I think his general dismissive attitude, I chose to take a dismissive attitude to, like, you didn't do your job, so you're not getting paid. Simple as that. I, as a DM, I wasn't expecting. There was a moment I was like,
you expect everybody just to be like,
yeah.
yeah.
I had.
Did you have him planned from the start?
Yeah.
Good God.
But when you have a character like that, you don't just drop them in all the time. Do you know what I mean? It's like that's just.
No, once was enough.
Yeah. And there's a lot more to, he's Echelon are the company that are the big, they own lots of different companies. They don't own Gibbous Incorporated, which is what the Susan O'Brien is part of. They don't own them. They hire them, which is part of it's quite an important point, that they've hired these people to do this. But obviously when you're part of, these huge corporate, God knows what choices, what they're doing, and corporate espionage, or what they know and what they don't know, and all the little dealings. I haven't been too clear on how high up he is, although you got some hints from a certain playback message. But it was always he didn't go into that call not knowing things about you all. He knew as much as he could, which is why I had it in my pocket, as it were, when Bill Forrest was giving him both barrels, rightfully so. I want to be from the point, they deservedly gave this piece of shit a lot of crap. But
Wendy threatened to assassinate.
Yeah, that I didn't expect. That was a moment of like, whoa. But I know when the doc was saying things, and I mentioned a little bit of detail about his backstory, and PJ shut down. You'll see it if you go back to that scene and on that episode. PJ stops, like, he doesn't say any more because Regis knows things. But until that point, the doc was very rightfully sort of saying, "Why have you done? This is terrible." He was
the one thing the doc did say is that he never lied, which is But after that, that was it. And then when Wendy said, "I'll come and get you," I was like, "Oh my God!" As the warden, I was scared. But Regis has to. Regis isn't a character that's going to be like. Ah! He was like, "What? Do you realise what you're saying?" Do you know what I mean? I had to sort of pivot and think. If he's a person like that, he's been threatened quite a lot. he's probably had a lot of people tell him that they're going to kill him. Oh, I hope Wendy does find him in season 2.
Yeah.
Spin-off.
Yeah. Who knows what Wendy will find in season 2? But who knows what else will happen? Season 2? What
season 2? Why are we talking about this mythical season 2?
Why are we talking about this now? Well, I'll tell you what. Let's have a break for 5 minutes.
Oh.
And then we'll come back.
Because you don't know what you're going to say.
I've got to think. Oh, where's what I've got to think about what I'm going to say. See you in 5. And welcome back to Regis bashing on Safe Space End of Transmission. We've, yes, even though we were off air for a little bit, the character was so hated that the players just couldn't help themselves talking about not liking this guy, but at the same time having fun not liking this guy. That's the most important thing. He's a prick. He's, yep. And we'd love to know what you people at home thought of him as well. He only had...
He made me feel like I was working in a call centre again.
Oh, PJ.
Oh, mate. Oh, wow.
Oh,
that was spot on, yeah.
Actually, yeah.
God.
There's been people on the phones that I've spoken to that have been like that.
Yeah.
And I could feel that kind of like, yeah, that anger was, yeah. Oh, I've dealt with so many people like that, and I'm just thinking, no, not having it.
I'm so sorry.
But no, it was great because it meant speaking to him as the doc meant I got to say things back to him that I would have been fired for saying to customers.
Oh, good. So, it's a way of tabletop is like therapy.
Demons.
Yes, exercising demons. And certainly the players had their own individual demons, or they had their what are they called? Their
conditions.
The conditions. Yes, the conditions. Yeah. One of the things about Mothership is when you fail your panic check, you gain a condition, or something bad can happen, or it could be like just a split-second thing. I think Blaze has suffered a couple of things that have lasted for like 10 minutes, haven't they? I've
had cowardice, and a couple of times I've upped my
minimum stress. Yeah,
it was like 4 now, isn't it?
Yeah, it's on 4 now. So
Jesus,
permanent.
Yeah,
got a bad ticker.
But there are the others as well, the conditions that linger on. Zam, look at Jim there, smiling to himself.
You've not had any conditions apart from being Zam.
Yeah, I think probably
Divorcee.
being Zam is the worst condition. Zam's particular demon still lives on Earth.
Just so you know, people, as well, a backstory. Earth has been thought about. We haven't revealed any details to it because also Jim's backstory was quite a lot of Earth was centered about it. So we went back and forth on what Earth was like, because I chose to. I'm almost painting the picture of like this galaxy, or this galaxy building, with the player's choices in mind. So Earth is a certain thing that we haven't released yet. We might tell the players off the air, but it's for you lovely people to decide. It was pretty cool though, wasn't it, Jim? What Earth is like.
Oh yeah. But Zam hasn't had any conditions. His stress has gone up, but then he's managed to reduce it. He's basically fumbled his way through all these encounters and managed to come out the other end really, really well so far.
Yeah.
He has a tendency to slide off the outside of spaceships.
Let's do that a lot.
Yeah.
Is that a condition?
Yeah.
I like the thought that his conditions, if he fails a check, if he panics, his condition could be cheerful. Wants to make friends.
Congenial.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Impromptu picnic.
Zam's been very brave though as well. There was one of the bigger monsters in the season, and Zam ran in. Obviously, the 2 Marines ran in, but Zam ran in with a handheld laser cutter and went at it. Proper Bruce Campbell style, absolutely covered in like gore and grew.
Yeah.
Was that the
that
captain?
thing of, you got to do something.
But do you? That's the question. That's the whole thing.
I suppose, yeah.
I did research.
He did research, and then he
found the memory stick,
and then he turned up and killed it. He just one-shotted it. Yeah. Which is another.
Zam's not a big thinker, though, is he? He's not like.
No, he did see the others get involved straight away. So
yeah, and he was just kind of like, right, okay, get stuck in.
Yeah,
he's got that kind of like, mentality of just he's quite angry, so he'll just
And he got smashed up for it. That was the one time where he got really smashed up for it. As did the Doc. He suffered a lot of damage that particular time. But he did keep his hand.
The acid
vial and the monster bit his arm.
Oh yeah, chop your arm off.
Yeah.
Because you were putting acid in it.
Yeah. Which is something, the lingering effects of that I didn't pick up on. Maybe that's a failing. And I will say, every game's a learning, and there's certainly, I've made lots of checks. I mean, people that would stick to the book on this game will know that you don't do that for that. And I've made roll checks on the fly for weird things or for certain decisions. And because sometimes, if we were doing stress for every check, all of these characters would be dead by episode 2. If that was the case. So there's certain moments that are just thematically it's fun if they fail it. I'm not going to give them stress for something you wouldn't get. I think you have to judge it. You have to weigh it up, don't you? Would you actually get stressed by this moment? No, you wouldn't. So you're not going to get stressed.
There was a really interesting thing watching the Doc get stressed early and quickly and continually just getting more and more stressed. And Wendy didn't really feel any stress probably till halfway through the season. Just because the roles just worked that way. She was quite chill anyway, and she was succeeding at stuff. And then I'm like, what is this stress mechanic thing? I don't understand. And then the marine panic spiral was the thing. It's like, holy cow. Oh God!
When it goes bad, it goes bad. When it goes bad, it can go really bad. Yeah.
I suddenly understood PJ's sort of
whole
game.
I think by the time we got off the Icarus, I had 3 conditions. So.
Which were what were the ones you had, PJ, at that particular time?
I can't remember because the one I've still got is haunted. I managed to get rid of the other 2. One of them was the one I cannot remember what they were, but one was where I gained stress whenever anyone else close by gained stress. I hated that one.
That was brutal.
That was nasty.
Let's have a look. Yes. Now, Wendy had doomed. Deflated.
Still do.
Doc, I believe.
Deflated.
Yeah, whenever a close crew member fails a save, gain 1 stress. Which, if you're surrounded by all your crew, could be very bad.
In stressful situations.
And of course, you are haunted.
Yes.
Which is nothing mechanically that will really affect you, but certainly thematically and story-wise, it's been a gift. And certainly because we got to step into a little bit almost supernatural. There was the real sort of ghost moments, which were really nice.
Which I genuinely thought the first time it happened, it was a dream sequence.
Yeah, I know.
And then was it ZAM finds me on the floor?
Yeah,
in the corridor.
Yeah.
No, he was. I thought that's what was going to happen, but the way I had to get back to the ship, I completely missed you.
Oh,
it was Blaze found you, wasn't it?
Yeah, Blaze found you. Yeah.
At that point, I think the Doc. My idea was that if ZAM did see the Doc on the floor, he was just going to step over him and carry on.
Oh, he's drunk again.
Yeah. So
PJ and Wendy, because you two are both. Well, PJ, you're haunted, and Wendy, you have nightmares. Has that informed your characters or how you've played them?
Not me. It hasn't changed what I do as the Doc. It's changed what Vince is doing to the Doc.
Right.
It did lead to one of my favourite funny moments of the campaign. I think someone's playing games with me. Love games.
Love games.
Oh dear, absolute fucking classic. I couldn't stop laughing at that. Yeah, I mean it's one of those things where you can have a bit of fun, but I also want it to still be. It's not like something that isn't tied into, because PJ gave me such a wonderful little bit of information to the Doc's backstory that I can play into that. It's another way of showing a bit of that. Yeah.
Was it better then that it was them? Because there's so much you can mine from. I'd say it was ZAM.
That'd be his ex-wife.
Yeah. Yeah, it would probably. Yeah,
mother-in-law.
Yeah, it would be interesting.
I'm still waiting for the phone call. I'm still waiting for us to be like on ship and there be a call and it's going to be Bernice.
Don't forget though.
Beneath.
Yeah. Yeah, we did a bit of practice in the session 0.
She's going to be on the next ship in from.
Yeah, but playing into Doc's lingering condition, because some of these lingering conditions are they're just mechanical. Like you gain more stress, or you have disadvantage on your saves. But I like the idea that there's these thematic ones. I think if they were all like that, that'd be too much. But just that, and it's almost like the right players got the right ones. I think. And
I don't know when you're going to spring it on me either. That's
the interesting one about yours, PJ, is that it's not like when you're asleep. It's not. It's whatever. I can. Your mind. It's almost like Doc Forrest's mind has broken down to a point where something's opened up. His past is coming back to haunt him. So we'll see where that goes. And it was very interesting, PJ, that when I gave you the option of getting rid of certain conditions, that was the one you kept.
Because that didn't affect my fucking stress.
Well, not his character stress, but wait until season 2. Whereas Wendy's has been... That is a mechanical one, isn't it, Wendy? Because you do have... I think you have disadvantage on comfort saves.
So I've got nightmares... I did have coward, and I think that's what happened at the Icarus, and why we left the Icarus so quickly was that both Blaze and Wendy became cowards at the same time. Yeah, and the Doc's already won, so it's like we're running away from this. But that's gone. She has nightmares. The phobia of tentacles. Thanks. So the thing that was most precious and kind of lovely to her is now no longer available.
That was horrible.
That has a mechanic.
The way that played out was just...
And then Doomed, which is feeling really cursed and unlucky, which actually really fits nicely with the whole vibe. And that has a dice thing as well.
Yeah.
But thanks for that.
But Wendy's lent into that, feeling doomed and unlucky, and then Wendy's almost went nihilistic and such. She's lent into it to like...
Lizzie the player has totally gone... Right, if I'm going to be all of these things, I'm going to be all of these things.
Yeah.
And you're going to get very different Wendy from what you had at the start.
Which is brilliant, and I think shows the way that players can play this game. It's like, just because it says it on the sheet, you can play it in a certain way that still thematically, it is that. But you're playing it so brilliantly because it's manifesting in lots of different ways. You know, all of these conditions, she's becoming a different character. And by her becoming a different character, she's getting different relationships with other characters. And
mostly fear and pain.
Yeah, or just completely shutting down.
I know ZAM was treating her like an airy-fairy hippie to begin with.
Yeah.
And now it's completely, there's this new side to her now, and it's probably a bit scary.
Yeah, I know the captain doesn't quite know what to make of it. The captain's concerned, not necessarily scared, but just sort of like, "Are you okay?"
I think it's the thing that everybody thought Wendy was a bit crazy because she was worshipping an octopus, and then you kind of go, actually, maybe that was the thing that was keeping her not like this, not like bar fights and sticking in it.
Blaze quite likes the new Wendy.
Yeah.
Didn't really understand the hippie Wendy, but now he's like, the marine.
There is also
Wendy.
the element of like, she's all right, she's harmless. She believes in these things, but she's harmless. And now we've discovered she's not harmless in any way, shape, or form, which is brilliant, and it's probably what the crew need. The crew need a Wendy.
Wild card.
Yeah. A total wild card. But obviously you've got that condition of the nightmares. How's that been for you, Lizzie?
It's a weird one because the nightmares sometimes are kind of narrated bits.
Yeah. And
it's like, well, how much do you get to interact with your nightmare from a playthrough point of view? Is it something where there's going to be a role, or you can sort of say something in your dream or whatever?
I try to put that in though. I don't want it to be like, this is what's happening. I'm always like, you are here. This is what you can see. What do you do? And
they have been quite.
One of them was quite. some of them have a certain amount of improv to them, but one of them was a little backstory-ish in some kind of way, which was fascinating. Because that was good for me to sort of... I put that scene there, and how you interacted with it gave me an idea of this is what kind of she was probably like in this particular moment. So... And then
there was just a kind of icky...
Then it went horribly wrong. Yeah. Nightmares, things like this for like game masters and stuff, you can just riff on it, can't you? You just think, we've watched enough horror movies, you know, you can just put someone in a completely dark space and just say you feel yourself sinking in tar. That, just thinking about that is the worst thing in the world. So I can just go a little bit crazy with like things that will ick people out a little bit.
Yeah.
And also because of the tentacles and everything, which...
Thanks.
Yeah.
Thank you.
But let's go PvP right now, as obviously these 4 players have no, not literally Lizzie. You just immediately you got the Wendy there,
the
just
Wendy.
ready to. Yeah.
It's the context. It's you guys. It's I've got Roll20 open in front of me. I'm ready.
She's ready to go. Got the dice.
Wendy is just here.
Maybe that says a lot. But no, obviously, I've watched these players and characters evolve and get used to interacting and playing the game with one another, and we've all been learning this game together as one. But now I'm going to turn it to the players. If there's anything they want to ask about moments in the game or their characters, feel free. Shall I pick someone to start? Eeny, meeny, miny, PJ. Oh, no! Lizzie wants to go first.
No, I have a question for Jim.
Oh, right, okay.
At the points when ZAM was... Because when we came off the Echo 237, ZAM almost drifted off into space, I think.
That was the Icarus.
No, off the Icarus, that was, yeah.
I thought
no, there was...
There were 2. No. I think it happened twice.
Yeah.
Oops.
There was a point where he was floating.
It was like you're floating in that bridge thing and you're almost gone. Did you think you were a goner? Yeah.
Yeah. I was fully prepared for that to be the end of ZAM. Yeah.
Oh. Both times?
Yeah. Both times, yeah.
I don't want to ask if you had like parting words from him because he might still need them.
No, not really. But it was, I think the Icarus was more definitely a thing of getting everybody else onto the ship, and if ZAM has to die doing it, then that's fine. I was okay with that. The first time on the Echo station, I was like, oh no, I don't want him to die yet, you know? But yeah, I think at the point where we were getting off the Icarus, it was like, oh, this would be an okay time for him to go.
Like the reports back home would be kind of like, he died a hero.
Yeah. Like you dying in front of everyone, making it look as though you saved us all.
Yeah.
Yeah, we get it.
Yeah, he did, really. It was, yeah. Just again.
And do you think how might the game have felt, I'm just thinking this now, the first time, how the game might have felt different if on the Echo 237, if you'd gone off, having just literally ripped Dick apart, if we'd also then lost ZAM, we probably would have been sitting here going, this game is impossible.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think so, yeah.
And certainly the game can be. Yeah, we would have got his backup, and trust me, people.
Yeah.
That is a backup that you may see, even if ZAM is alive. And I've talked to Jim about this. The reason why that might be the case. Yes, you might see him. Yeah, depending on how things play out. Yeah.
Nothing to worry about.
It doesn't mean that doesn't necessarily mean Jim's going to have to have his 2 characters interacting. There could be a situation where the backup character is needed.
Okay.
I think we'll all try and manipulate that to happen, where to get Jim to just talk to himself.
Yeah, I'll do that. I'm well up for that.
Yeah, I think character death is a very important thing in games. It shouldn't be taken lightly. And I know certainly the Warden's Operation Manual does it does stress that when a player loses, it says this in the manual as well, when a player loses their character, it's a big thing. It's not for me to go, wow, you've just been eaten, you've been swallowed whole, goodbye to that character. If such a thing happens, then I will pass it over. The player should always have their last moment. They should have a moment to, even if they die horribly, that's up to the player to, if something bad happens, just say they're torn apart by zombies or something stupid like that, it'll always be, what are the last moments like for this character, and hand it to the player. It should always be like that. I never treat a game like I'm against the players. The players might feel like that sometimes, and PJ certainly complains about it. But we're all in this together. And I'm just setting up the hurdles for them to, and the hurdles and the puzzles for them to figure out and overcome, and hopefully. And the problem is they've created characters I really love, so I'm going to feel it as much as everyone else when
We've
they
reached
die.
that point now, haven't we? Where they develop enough that if one of them goes now, I think it'll be really impactful then.
Also,
Then maybe there'll be a point when the different characters get to the end of their kind of their little arc or whatever, and then they all just charge towards death, going, "I can go now. I've concluded that. You now know my backstory."
Yeah.
I don't know about. I feel like Jim and Lizzie, you've got a bit more on this than I do, but I have absolutely nothing on my second character. I've got the name and the stats. That's it. I know nothing else about them
I
at
have
the moment.
name
That's all I
and
had
some
for
stats,
Blaze.
and I have one bit of background.
Yeah. There's a bit of background that, should we ever do a spin-off, maybe, Lizzie? Maybe a prequel. We'll see a little. Who knows? There's a big wide galaxy out there.
We're not doing a ZAM prequel. We're not doing him as married.
Oh God! What a world that would
It'd
be.
be like a terrible 50s
Little
sitcom.
sitcom, yeah,
I'm
exactly.
just
It's
imagining
kind of
married with
WandaVision,
children.
Yeah, that'd be
That's
the.
the
Everybody
True
hates ZAM.
Yeah, that's the Wham Zam.
but-
Thank you,
It's like,
man.
I love Lucy.
Yeah,
You all hate Zam.
yeah.
Oh.
But does anyone else have questions for your fellow players? Come on. Seeing them all think now. It's like I've just dropped a puzzle.
I'd like to know how it's been for Wendy with the Switch. Like, have you enjoyed playing Wendy more as a Marine, or were you enjoying it more as a hippie?
I've really enjoyed changing her. Do you know what I mean? I love playing her as the hippie. She was just really good fun, and you could just do stupid stuff, but very calmly.
I mean, you say that.
But
There were
knew
certain moments.
there
There were
was
some
always-
moments. This acidic wit came out.
Yeah.
Wendy would say something and just have a look of her. And you knew there was something underneath it all that I really liked.
I mean, when you first met Wendy, I confess I was listening to the very beginning of episode 1 before we started this, and you first meet Wendy, and she's sitting there with a knife, a kitchen knife, doing that through her hand.
Yeah. Doing the bishop.
But she's crocheting a thing, like a bandage splint for Dick's lost finger, broken finger, which he had. And it's like that.
Which you caused.
Which Wendy might have accidentally caused by rescuing Dick again in a previous non-broadcast episode. But it's that thing that she's doing this really sweet thing of crocheting something for somebody, but she's doing it with a military knife. It's like there's always that
Yeah.
hidden underneath it all, and now that the top layer of all of that piece has gone, she's grappling with some issues.
Were you always ready to have that, the sort of shaving the head moment? Not literally that, but the Wendy's going to come back as a scary Marine.
I didn't expect that Wendy's religion would be taken away from her so completely.
Yeah, that was really.
Her newfound phobia of all things with tentacles.
And that was purely a mechanical thing. That was just the nature of the game, the way that fell out, where that whole thing happened was oh no. I was like, this is a fundamental part of the character that Lizzie built, and the mechanics have dictated that she's now, this character is scared of it. that changes everything, doesn't it?
So probably if that hadn't happened, you might have had more flashes of old Wendy, of violent Wendy, but not ultra-violent Wendy. And the G.I. Jane thing was just fun. That was like, I'm going to do that. Yeah.
How would hippie Wendy have reacted to losing an arm?
Oh, God.
Oh. Hippie Wendy would have not had a fight with the guy in the bar in the first place. So
that brilliant dropping both glasses and turning around and clocking.
Probably would have made like Fight Club into some sort of drum circle or gong bath experience.
I love that.
And we'd have been doing like a parade of the giant octopus through the town.
Oh my God.
Yeah. Maybe she'd have gone
Wendy
all like proselytizing and evangelical about it.
Yeah.
I feel like she would have been the one drinking on her own.
Yeah.
Like, she was...
Green tea. While everyone else is like,
come on, Zam's buying.
That would never have happened. You always intended on
You had the
leaving
credit
him
card.
Yeah. Yeah. What's it been like for you all, like, interacting with Blaze?
I've really enjoyed it. He's a really fun, because I think Blaze is someone who I think takes things very much at face value, is the impression I get, which means that you can mess with him a little bit, like when he first came out and the doc tried to convince him he was the janitor.
Yeah. And he believed you.
Yeah.
Just the thing is like...
Yeah.
It was kind of weird because I didn't really know, it's like, who's this new character and what's he all about and what's his extended backstory, and then eventually actually he and Wendy speak the same language.
The toothpick
they've
moment.
been the same training.
Yeah.
They have matching toothpicks.
Which is in the lost episode.
Oh. For those who don't know, there was a moment when Blaze is immediately winding up most of the crew the wrong way just by being a bull in a china shop of a human being.
Macho. Oh my God.
Macho. Just let's get on it. It didn't help that when he woke up from cryosleep, he had a stim pack, and his adrenaline was just going. So he was like a hyperactive baby for the first day. So immediately, and of course, this is a crew who have just said goodbye to someone that they care about in their own unique way, and he comes in like sad about him. But then both of the players have an item in their inventory. Their trinket, I believe it is, isn't it? It's a metal toothpick, which you both crafted as a military thing, didn't you, in this scene?
Yeah, it was like from military academy, Marine academy.
Yeah, ad-libbed that it. Yeah. We both got it from the academy. What was the name of yours?
Jezebel.
Yeah, and mine was Methuselah.
Titanium toothpicks, that's what it is, isn't it? You get
I think is that something that the Marines get, or is that just a random
That was a random
thing
thing. You both managed to roll. But now it's canon. Marines
If you meet a Marine in Mothership, they're gonna have a titanium toothpick with some sort of epic name.
Yeah.
Old Testament name.
Yeah, you got to name your pick, man. But that was so good, and that was so. I didn't realise that was in the last one. But that was an interesting moment of a Marine meeting a Marine, and all of a sudden these two characters had a connection that they didn't.
And it was also extra special, I think, is because we didn't know, or Blaze didn't know that she was a Marine. Just thought it was some hippie right up until the toothpick, and then it was like, we are kindred.
Yeah.
Yeah. So then, he had a lot more respect for her after that.
Yeah. I'm going to ask an important question to PJ.
Uh-oh.
How does Doc Forrest feel about the crew? If you can say. You don't have to spoil anything. But
he grudgingly, I think he's sort of grown to like and respect them to a point. I think that the Doc was put in a position I really wasn't expecting on the Icarus. Basically, when we were rolling up characters, none of us wanted to be the captain. I don't think any of us wanted to have that sort of
which is why
position.
the captain is an NPC that has her own stat block. Most NPCs have they have just one wound. They've got a couple of simple stats. They don't have lots of different things. The captain has her own stat block, much like the players.
Yeah. But I sort of found on the Icarus that the Doc did find himself in this leadership position.
Yeah.
And at that point, I suddenly felt him becoming very protective of the other characters, and not just because that was the job, but because he does genuinely like them, even ZAM in some small way. I
don't have to lie. It's fine.
But I think no, I'm not gonna. No, I'm gonna leave it there.
You need to say no more. Okay, how does ZAM feel about the rest of the crew and Jim? Without giving too much away. How do you think he...
I think probably somewhere deep down he's alright with the Doc because they're very similar kind of like attitudes. But the Doc is just more likable on the ship, I think, so...
Is he?
He's got the booze.
Yeah.
Well, more people like the Doc than they do ZAM, so...
Oh, we all love ZAM.
I think... No.
Not in character.
Oh, right.
Everybody left him behind. No, so I think he probably like gets on okay with the Doc. He seemed to be all right with Dick, even though Dick was a robot. He seemed to be all right with him. He's got on all right with Wendy.
Couple.
They were like the odd couple, weren't they?
Yeah. He's got on all right with Wendy, but I think to begin with, he didn't really like Wendy because she was so kind of like airy-fairy. They got on all right on the Icarus. He hasn't really spent much time with new Wendy, I think. So I think he's probably just seen the kind of like periphery of it, and he's a bit scared of her. And he doesn't like Blaze. Just doesn't like Blaze.
That's fair.
It was that dress uniform, wasn't it? That officer and gentleman moment. Probably was like, oh.
That got so ruined.
Deep dive into it. It was the altercation in that like pool room on the Icarus. Was the one major thing. But I think he's more threatened by him.
Yeah.
Because he's quite a like tough, strong, masculine character, and he's.
And we can't understate this.
Zam
Blaze is a wall. He's a wall. He's a brick wall of a man, isn't he? Blaze Kelvin.
Yeah. I can't remember. He's like 7 foot or something.
God, I don't think we said that.
Yeah, at least 8 foot.
Exactly.
Like 9.
12 foot tall, I think.
He's got his own gravitational field.
He's a bit taller than the Burj Khalifa, I think.
Well, I think he does really respect the captain, even though he really pushes back against the captain.
Yeah, he does.
I think that he kind of feels like he can do that and get away with it because he knows there's a bit of a relationship there with the captain. And he's indifferent to Darcy. Darcy's just hardware, so
Darcy's the ship AI who hasn't been in this as much as I thought they were going to be. I will say, probably thankfully, there's been enough NPCs for me to think about. But what about Blaze then, Gavin? What's his current situation?
Well, currently, I think he likes all the crew. Maybe ZAM slightly less than the others. But since the Icarus incident, he's respected ZAM a lot more. Probably not outwardly showing it or inviting him out for drinks, but I don't think he's going to be actively antagonistic. I don't think he has been since.
I mean, that's the weird thing, though, isn't it? As soon as like everybody went off to the bar, and ZAM was on his own in the other bar, we've never all properly been together for an extended period of time. Then
everyone came together for the plan.
The chairs, not the chairs, the cryo pods.
Yeah, everyone came together for the plan.
Everybody was like doing stuff then. So we've all been distracted. We haven't had like a character moment together, I don't think. We've all just been kind of like, this is the plan, this is what we need to do.
But before, there was a lot more like finger pointing from my character. Like, I blamed you for letting Dick get killed. I blamed you for coming up with a shit plan on Icarus. Like, so there's a lot less of that now. And I think he's just, because when he first woke up, he was just a a grumpy, throwing his weight about.
Yeah.
Bit of a prick. But,
I think this game system as well, it's easier and certainly more interesting for players to psychologically turn on one another. Do you know what I mean? That paranoia and just characters pointing fingers, like as you say, Gav, like just completely arguing all the time. You don't want that necessarily with your D&D campaign, where everyone has to become a little family together. Whereas games like this invite that sort of like, what do you think you were doing? What the hell were you doing? And then like there's the arguments that could lead to, you know, tragedy.
Which I hope, by the way, like, I'm really sorry if anyone's found that like off-putting or whatever. Like, I don't mean for him to be horrible.
Oh, I think I think Blaze has shown signs of being a likable guy. I think he's hilarious as well. So
Right. I fully went into it wanting to make a character that wasn't going to be that likable.
yeah.
So the fact that he got left behind
If they're just blueprints of likable
really
characters,
worked.
they're boring.
So I also think that they didn't necessarily maliciously leave him out.
Yeah.
It's almost that when if they've landed on places,
People got a stronger bond, I think.
And also
they
an important thing.
would have almost kind of forgotten him slightly. It's not like let's not invite him. It's like let's all go to the pub.
Yeah.
It's like,
And when they all went to the bar, the captain wasn't with them. The captain was off doing. She probably would have been the one that would have been like, we need to get ZAM needs to be here as well.
Also, it's like we're so used to him being in the engine room, doing his own thing.
Bang, bang, bang.
Yeah,
hitting things with a hammer.
Yeah.
Oh, that comes up so much.
Yeah.
That was one of my favorite moments. Was when there were character moments going on, and I was just thinking, when do I insert a clang to really throw everybody off?
Yeah.
It was just like, just get to the point and go, clang.
Brilliant.
Yeah. Yeah. There's a lot more to this game that we haven't shown yet. But okay, lastly, and this is going to be very interesting, how is this Wendy? How does she feel about the people that she's spending time with right now?
Oh, blimey.
Feel free to not say anything if it's still something that's developing. Then
how does she feel in general? Like, you're
She's
right.
violent. Well, she feels doomed and all of these things. That there's nothing, and there's been some really kind of moments of dialogue, particularly there was a little exchange with Sarah.
Yeah, what was that? Was that when she
And
was training?
it was no, it was when Wendy injured her arm, and Sarah said something like, "Does it hurt?" And Wendy said, "What? The absence?" And Sarah said, "Yes." And it's like, oh my god, this is working on so many levels right now.
Yeah.
And
at that moment, PJ went, "Oh no, we broke Sarah."
Yeah. Like, I don't think the Doc would like Sarah to be hanging out with Wendy, because it's two traumatized people not dealing with their trauma in the ideal way.
And certainly this game does bring up themes like that, people. And we hope you have enjoyed the campaign, and but the story will go in certain ways, and as we do try to give the warning, so we hope you have enjoyed. If we'll go to some dark places, we'll go to the funny places. Certainly there was one moment that I was playing back in my head thinking, what did I go too far with that? And that was the playback. Not Regis. Regis wasn't far enough.
Too far.
Regis wasn't far enough. It was the recording of Darwin Buchanan. That was probably the darkest moment, and it wasn't even a moment that we were all visually seeing.
That felt pitch perfect to me.
Yeah.
Like, that landed. Do you know what I mean? It made me think of Event Horizon when they get that
same
SOS tape thing. Yeah.
Question which maybe you don't have to, Vince, you don't have to answer it if this is a thing that might come back. If we had continued exploring the Icarus, there was one room, it might be like a VIP lounge, which had one person sitting in a chair who was dead. Would that have been him?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah. There was
Just
enough
kind of
details there, because you saw it on a security monitor, wasn't it? There was blood everywhere.
Yeah.
Yeah, you would have seen a few more details of that.
Okay.
So that was, little bits were there. But the data tape was always, you had it for so long.
I know.
And I was thinking, when are they going to play this at some point? But I don't know. It just worked.
We didn't have the tech, did we?
No, didn't
we
really
didn't have any equipment. Did
ZAM
we?
thought about putting something together, I remember. But it wasn't until you met Fletcher that you found someone that could deal with all that.
Oh God, if you jerry-rigged something on the Susan O'Brien, and played it.
Oh, fuck.
Yeah.
God, it would have just been running forever and not gone anywhere else.
Yeah. There's lots of different ways that this campaign
There's a
could
sobering
have gone.
thought. Jeez.
Yeah, there's lots of different ways that this could have gone. But it went the way it did. And what a season it was, I think. I think by the end, when we ended, we've all felt like, I can't speak for my players, no, won't, so I'll leave them to answer for themselves. It felt like we were just getting started and we were ready to keep rolling. But we're at a nice place where everything could fade out, even though the players didn't trust me, and certainly there was an epilogue scene, of which things were hinted at in the leading up to it.
Still don't trust you.
Yeah, and you're right not to.
You're about to announce season 2 with an all-new cast. Oh, thanks, Vince.
Wow.
Those 4 characters tragically died in a boating accident.
Yeah.
On their way back to their home planet.
Wow. Well, as we're talking about season 2, we've constantly been mentioning about what's going to happen next. I can tell you that Safe Space is going to return. We've had so much fun playing this game that we're just figuring out. We're going to get back together to do some more episodes of this. We're going to be back in spring of 2023 when we're scheduled. Yes. Safe Space Season 2. I haven't got a name for it, but insert this.
Safe Space 2, Space Harder.
Space Safer.
Oh, there we go. Safe Spacer?
But there's certainly there's enough plot threads that were left dangling, some that was created. There's a lot more that could happen on Cassius Prime. But don't worry, this probably isn't going to be like The Walking Dead Season 2, where they've been on the farm for 3 seasons. Who knows?
Seriously, you've given us a biodome. This is now.
There's a biodome, there's a colony.
Cultivation and gardening.
There's a colony. And here's a little tidbit.
Put on a show.
Here's a little tidbit for all my players. Cassius Prime didn't exist when I started running this game. It did not exist.
He was expecting us to die on the Icarus.
You were expecting us to be chased around by the Icarus.
I thought you'd be on the Icarus for about 3 more episodes. And you left.
It was trying to kill us.
So I was like, okay.
Cowards, what were we meant to do?
Okay,
it was the panic rolls that really spelled that out.
And I was thinking, what are we going to do?
And
that
not the
armory.
hostages, the people we saved.
Yeah.
What are they called? They're not called hostages, are they? They're not called NPCs. Survivors. There you go. That's
Survivors, yes.
Sorry.
So
Passengers.
you had those bits of story. You had this like, what are we going to do for the rest of the season? Just float about in space, I suppose. No, we can't do that. So Cassius Prime has now become, and it's blossomed and bloomed and turned into something quite spectacular. And there's storylines branching off. The players don't know what's going on. Even when the epilogue, and I trust my players, which is why I can have that scene at the end of the season, and they won't meta game too much. Just because they know that, they won't play it elsewhere. They'll play into it. But hopefully, I gave them enough to be worried, or
Constantly,
or thoughtful. But yeah, spring 2023, we will be back. It will be more action packed. There will be more mysteries. There'll be more intensity, and there'll be a couple of different stat changes and some mechanics going on.
Mm-hmm.
As I said before, I've been looking at the player manual and the Warden's operation manual, because it's literally just give me the keys to go to open this world up. So I'm going to be working with the players. Before Season 3, we'll probably have like a session 1.5 where... And I might as well announce it here. We're going to add a new stat block to these players' character sheets, which aren't normally there. But I think because of the nature of this show and this campaign, makes sense. There's going to be a social stat block. So when they're in social,
is going to be low.
Yeah. So in their social sheet, not if he rolls high.
It's advantage when
If
he's
he
drunk.
rolls high,
He could roll high.
Oh my god!
He could roll really high. We're going to
Super
figure out
chatty.
those stats in the same way that we figured out the speed and the intellect and everything else. But there's going to be one more. So that isn't in the normal player's manual, but you can do that with the game. So we're adding to the homebrew nature of Safe Space by adding that little bit. So it'd be funny when they start rolling against that, when I start saying make a social check. And watch them go, oh god, I only asked for a packet of cheese and onion crisps and I got a critical fail.
Because what's more stressful than social situations?
Oh god. Yeah, the stress is always multiplied by 2 whenever you fail on a social situation.
You've embarrassed yourself.
Yeah, I may also make some modifications to a couple of the tables. Now, I'm just going to be upfront with everyone now that there are the tables in the player's manual and the warden's manuals and stuff. They're brilliant, but I'm going to tweak a couple of them. I don't think I'll tweak the conditions because they seem to be they're working pretty well for us, aren't they? For the wound table. The wound table can be pretty brutal. Pretty brutal. In the fact that, I mean, Wendy rolled a 7 and she lost an arm. Which, that shocked everyone.
I mean, it was a vibrachete.
Yeah, vibrachete. Yeah.
It was a big space weapon.
Yeah.
It's my own fault.
Yeah. Oh, I love that when a player says that. It was my own fault. How many times does a player say that? But I may slightly adjust some of that. I know on the wounds table, if you roll a 9, you're dead. So, yeah.
Don't make it easy on us, Vince.
I might swear.
Don't pretend to be nice.
Have I made it easy on you so far? Look at PJ's face. Yes, but so there may be some little tweaks. I'll probably talk about it during the show as well. And hopefully for you people watching and listening at home, I'm adequately describing some of the mechanics because seriously, we've had so much fun. We hope you pick up this game and play it as well because tabletop role-playing games are just so much fun, especially when you're with a group of players that you trust and you love rolling dice with, and even when they're mean to me. I love it.
Do it to yourself. Vince.
Yeah. But did I say listen? Did I say listen then? I did say those listening. Yes.
Oh, here we go. Segue.
Segue. Segue. No.
Bang, cliff.
Yeah. Yes.
It's like
Because
nobody's paying any attention to us, Vince. What on earth do you mean?
I know. That's why I'm drinking constantly. No, Safe Space, the audio podcast. We've announced it on social media at Safe Space RPG, but the audio versions of this season are going to be available at the beginning of January 2023.
Hooray.
We kick off the new year with episode 1. So if you prefer just listening as a podcast, it's going to be available all of season 1. We're going to do it week by week, and from then on, you'll be able to get a video or audio version of the show.
A small treat for the people doing the audio podcast. ELIOT Red is slightly reworking the theme tune for the audio version. So
Yes.
Nice.
And as I've got a tiny amount of podcast knowledge and editing knowledge, there's going to be a little bit of an introduction and an outro. Because you won't necessarily catch all the hello and welcome to Safe Space. You won't necessarily hear all of that. You won't necessarily hear all of that. Me completely fluff all of my intros.
There's going to be a whole separate podcast which is only intros.
Yeah. The intro cast. Yeah. So, but there will be a like specific intro. It's almost like a, and I've had this before. One of the things that gave me the idea is when I've recorded D&D for some of my groups to listen back to and like make notes and stuff. I've just always done it. And sometimes they play it for other people, and the people will be like, "You should release this as a podcast. It's like an audio, it's like an audio play. This is really fun to listen to." And I'm like, "Well, I can't because I use copyrighted music and everything in those, and no one can ever listen to that." But then I thought, well, maybe with the right sort of tweaking, we can do something that would be. So, Safe Space, the podcast, is going to be available from January 2023.
Yay!
And where can you find it? Well, you'll be able to find it on the new podcast network, of which I'm showing the logo now. Yes, Lawbreaker Radio. The players can't see it, but the players have probably already seen it. Lawbreaker Radio, which is a new sort of podcast network that's kicking off in January 2023. It's basically just going to be full of games like this. Tabletop RPG games where we just, a group of friends get together, roll dice and tell some stories. It's always going to be funny in a kind of way. No doubt cinematic. There's going to be some sound effects with some of them. I don't know how much I'll be able to do to the Safe Space one, but there are going to be some audio only shows elsewhere coming up, of which you might hear something about in a minute. But Safe Space is going to be our first show debuting on there. You can find it, it's lawbreaker.podbean.com. It'll be on...
How are you spelling this, Vince?
Lawbreaker, I'm glad you asked.
Yeah, you're welcome.
And yeah, that's probably a good idea, really, wasn't it? Because I just showed a logo, but the audio listeners can't hear this. LORE breaker.podbean.com. Why is it called
see
that?
What you did there.
Because all of the lore I create, my players constantly break. So... So go to lawbreaker.podbean.com. It will be available on all your podcasts, wherever you get your podcasts, and it's going to be full of great shows such as Safe Space. And shortly after that, I've got a little graphic for this as well, which will be up online. The second show, which is The Wretched Crown, which is a Merc Borg actual play campaign. Now, if you thought this was horrific, wait until you see what we've got planned for that. Anyone who knows the Merc Borg game will know it's a sort of a dark apocalyptic fantasy setting where the world is dying and it's only a matter of time. The only things in that world are hideous creatures and people that are probably quite nasty. And we're deciding to play in that sandbox. So yes, there may be a couple of voices of this show that you might recognise, as well as a new voice. Yes. Shall I announce it here?
Well, hopefully not. You can't recognise the voices.
Oh, you won't recognise the voices, but well, yeah.
Hello!
Please, it's back again.
I'm not going to say he's a one-trick pony. But yes, but look forward to that because that will be up shortly after Safe Space, and then there's a third planned show for later in 2023, but we're not saying anything about that just yet. So I've got enough on my plate.
It's a banquet.
It's a banquet, yes. And of course, Safe Space Season 2 will be on there as well. So you can follow it at LORE Breaker Pod on Twitter, at Lawbreaker Radio on Instagram. Please go follow and check us out because this is a big adventure that I've decided to go on. And I blame these four here, because it was so much fun doing this. I think Safe Space will be the only video show as well, I think.
Because we're the prettiest players.
Yeah, totally. But the others will be audio only with some bells and whistles and stuff like that. But please,
beautiful.
They're all beautiful players. I think you can all agree. And I've had immense fun playing with you guys over this season. So thank you very much for taking this journey with me. Because we literally stepped into the dark. I had never run this game before. Our session 0. And no one knew really about Mothership until we did the character creation night, which was an epic night in itself. I thoroughly recommend people just have a character creation night.
Yeah.
Because it's just so much fun.
I think one of my favourite bits, sorry, we haven't talked about that very much, but character creation was really good fun. Didn't take it's quite a quick process, and then you can just make shit up about your characters. And Vince left the room for a few minutes, and we were going to talk just amongst ourselves. We were going to have a natter, and we were going to maybe talk about the ship. When he got back, we were going to talk about the ship that we were going to have. And by the time he'd got back, we had named the ship and come up with all the backstory as to why the ship is called the Susan O'Brien and who Susan O'Brien was and how heroic she was. And yeah.
And the error in writing.
That it's the Susan O'Brien on the side of the ship.
Which hasn't really come into the story too much right now. There's a little bit of it, but they haven't got back to their own system yet. It's probably that sort of details when they meet. If they ever meet some of their fellow junkers, that's totally going to be a thing.
But that was like the bonding of this crew on the Susan O'Brien was very much like the naming of. And you came back and we're like, "Hi, we've done it."
Yeah. They also named the captain. And I don't know if anyone's picked up on that.
Computer.
And the computer.
Yeah. I don't know if anyone's picked
up.
Go
back and listen.
Yeah, go back and listen. See if you can figure it out. It's there. It's not.
It's not hiding.
It's not really hiding. Yeah, it's funny. It was interesting to see the way the name started and then it evolved. Because it almost had a little bit of an alien vibe and then went somewhere else entirely. But thank you for listening and watching the show, everyone. We really do appreciate it. It's been great. I saw the numbers spike on the finale, so I hope you enjoyed that because it got really crazy in a fun way, and our longest show ever as well. So that's something I'm going to try and nail down. I'm going to try and make sure that we're not going until like forever, which I'm going to do now because I'm going to finish this up because I've got some campaign notes to make. So while I go off and do that, where can these lovely people find you, wonderful players? For the last time of season 1, Jim, where can they find you?
Twitter! At JimBob1978.
Same place. At Lizzie Boyle Says, or the Ski Shoot Repeat podcast, which is at Ski Shoot Repeat on Twitter as well.
Yeah, it's a great show. Gav.
Twitter! At Bob Goblin. Same on Instagram as well.
And PJ.
Twitter.
Has that deflated condition come back?
Yeah.
I can't get enthusiastic about Twitter anymore.
Yeah.
At PJ Montgomery on Instagram, at PJM82. And then check out my podcasts as well, the JLA cast, which is coming out every 2 weeks. Next episode on Boxing Day, where John Locke and I look at 90s comics. Measure of a Fan comes back for its 4th season in January, where myself, Matt Trow, and Elliot Red discuss Star Trek.
Yay.
Awesome shows. One and all from everyone here. Speaking of Elliot Red, I want to thank Elliot Red for the wonderful Safe Space theme tune that I just get a kick out of listening to every time, and I look forward to hearing the slightly adapted one. Elliot's been an absolute star for doing that, so thank you very much for that. Thank you very much for Tabletop Audio for the background music that you hear during the game sessions. I'm not really a DJ, so I've just sort of moved through tracks normally, but sometimes when I change the track, the players go, "Oh God, it's gotten intense. Have you noticed the music change?"
Really adds to it.
Yeah, that'll be thanks to the wonderful ambient music of Tabletop Audio. Go follow them on Patreon and get like 10-minute. I mean, there's tabletopaudio.com as well, but there's also like 10-minute ambience if you just play it in your home games. It's brilliant. That's what we got in the background for this session tonight as well. So thank you very much to them. Follow me on the socials at Jester Diablo. Follow this show at safespacerpg.com. Like, subscribe, do all of that good stuff because it gets more people to know about this show. We hope you have enjoyed this look back on season 1. I feel like there's so much more we can talk about, and there's so many secrets that they didn't manage to get out of me. But until we meet you again, once again, on the edges of space, wherever we may be, whatever nightmares we may face, wherever you are in the world, we hope you stay safe. Bye, everyone.
Bye.
Bye. He's a pro.
He's a prick.
What?
And that's where you have to end
Yeah.
it.
Yep.